Welcome back to Alternatify, the channel where we delve into the fascinating what-ifs of history. Today, we're embarking on a truly monumental thought experiment. We're going to imagine a world where the scramble for Africa simply never occurred. Picture a fundamentally different global landscape, one where an entire continent wasn't carved up by external powers. This isn't just an academic exercise. It's an exploration of profound ripple effects. We'll consider how this absence might have reshaped global politics, societies, and the very trajectory of human development. Join me as we speculate on the potential triumphs and tragedies of a world where Africa's destiny remained firmly in its own hands. First, let's establish our baseline. The scramble for Africa was a frenzied land grab by European powers in the late 19th century. It saw the rapid partition and colonization of almost the entire African continent. This period, roughly from 1881 to 1914, fundamentally altered Africa's course. Its driving forces were a complex mix of greed for resources, burgeoning European nationalism, and a pervasive sense of racial superiority. Industrialization fueled a desperate thirst for raw materials and new markets. This era was a brutal manifestation of imperial ambition. A pivotal moment was the Berlin Conference of 1884-85. European nations arbitrarily drew borders across existing African kingdoms and ethnic lines, ignoring centuries of established structures. This conference legitimized the division of a continent among foreign powers. Our core what-if removes this external pressure, systematic exploitation, and forced assimilation. We are imagining a scenario where European powers, for whatever reason, chose not to embark on this colonial conquest. Without the scramble, we would likely see the evolution of larger, more unified African states. Existing kingdoms like the Ashanti, Zulu, and Sokoto Caliphate would have had the space to consolidate and expand their influence. These powerful entities could have developed into modern nation-states on their own terms. This scenario fosters an environment ripe for Pan-African unity. Trade routes and cultural exchanges, already vibrant, would have flourished unhindered by artificial colonial borders. Political cooperation across the continent could have become the norm, leading to powerful regional blocs. Internal conflicts, which are a natural part of any continent's history, would have been resolved by Africans themselves. There would be no foreign interference exacerbating tensions or imposing external solutions. This self-determination would build stronger, more resilient governance structures. The absence of colonialism would have presented an unparalleled opportunity for indigenous economic growth. African nations could have developed economies based on their own priorities and needs. This would mean investing in local industries and fostering self-sufficiency. Crucially, African nations would have retained control over their own vast natural resources. Instead of these resources being extracted for European benefit, they could have been invested directly into local development. This would fund infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Agriculture would have shifted from the colonial cash crop model to one focused on food security and robust local markets. This diversification would protect against global price fluctuations and ensure the well-being of the population. It would foster sustainable farming practices. This economic autonomy would lead to a more equitable distribution of wealth. The development of a robust middle class would be possible, fostering greater social stability and reducing economic disparities. Prosperity would be shared more broadly across society. The cultural flourishing of Africa would have been immense. Indigenous languages, traditions, and belief systems would have continued to evolve organically. There would be no imposed European educational systems or cultural norms suppressing local identities. Global recognition of African art, music, literature, and philosophy would have come much earlier and more authentically. These rich cultural expressions would be celebrated on their own merits, influencing global trends without the filter of colonial interpretation. The world would be culturally richer. The absence of forced assimilation would preserve Africa's incredible cultural diversity. Each community, each ethnic group, would retain its unique heritage. This mosaic of cultures would be a source of strength and innovation, not division. Traditional social structures would remain intact, fostering strong community bonds and a clear sense of identity. These established systems of governance and social cohesion would provide a stable foundation for modern development. They would adapt rather than be dismantled. Without the vast resources and strategic advantages gained from African colonies, European dominance would be significantly lessened. The balance of global power would be fundamentally altered. Europe's industrial might would still be formidable, but its global reach would be curtailed. This would likely lead to a more multipolar world much sooner. Non-European nations such as China and India would have greater influence on the global stage. Their own development trajectories might accelerate without the overwhelming shadow of European imperialism. There would be a reduced likelihood of major global conflicts stemming from colonial rivalries. The build-up to World War I, for instance, was heavily influenced by imperial competition. Without the scramble, some of these flashpoints might never ignite. A strong, independent Africa would act as a powerful counterweight to Western influence. It would advocate for a more equitable global order, championing the rights of developing nations and fostering true international cooperation. This would create a more balanced world. It's impossible to discuss this alternative history without acknowledging the immense lost potential of our own timeline. Millions of lives were lost, cultures were destroyed, and the inherent potential of an entire continent was stifled by colonialism. This is a profound tragedy. But in our imagined world, we see a glimmer of hope. Imagine African scientists leading innovation, addressing global challenges with unique perspectives. Picture African artists and entrepreneurs shaping global trends, their creativity unburdened by historical oppression. The absence of colonialism creates a more level playing field from the outset. Africa would enter the 20th century as a collection of independent, self-determining nations. Their development would be driven by internal needs and aspirations, not external demands. Let's briefly consider how specific regions might have developed. In West Africa, consolidated kingdoms like the Ashanti and Dahomey could have evolved into powerful modern states. They might have leveraged their long-standing trade networks to become economic powerhouses. East Africa, with its rich Swahili coast history, could have seen flourishing trade hubs connecting the continent to Asia and beyond. The Great Lakes region might have developed into a confederation of prosperous agricultural and resource-rich states. Southern Africa, perhaps with the Zulu and Xhosa nations, could have formed strong independent federations. Central Africa, with its vast resources, might have seen the rise of powerful, resource-controlling empires. Each region would have its own unique trajectory. It's crucial to acknowledge that even in this alternative history, Africa would not be a utopia. Internal conflicts, ethnic tensions, and the devastating legacy of the transatlantic slave trade would still exist. These are complex issues that predate and would persist beyond colonialism. Furthermore, global powers like the United States and the Soviet Union would still emerge. Issues such as disease, climate change, and global economic shifts would still be factors. Africa would face its own unique set of challenges, just like any other continent. This alternative history doesn't erase all difficulties. It simply removes one of the most significant external forces that shaped Africa's modern history. It allows for a different set of challenges and, crucially, different, self-determined responses. So we've journeyed through a world where the scramble for Africa never happened. We've imagined a continent of strong, independent nations, shaping their own destinies and contributing to a more balanced global order. It's a powerful reminder of the profound impact of historical choices. This thought experiment isn't about rewriting the past to perfection. It's about understanding the immense potential that was lost and learning from it. It encourages us to critically examine the forces that shape our world today. What are your thoughts on this alternative timeline? Do you agree with our speculations, Or do you envision a different outcome? Share your insights in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into alternative history, please like this video and subscribe to Alternatify for more thought-provoking content.